Well, in honor of Flag Day, we put up our flag.
We put up our flag.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. I'm going to move this microphone. So, folks, if you hear something, just. Okay, there. Okay, so it's Saturday, June 14th, 2025. It's this crazy day. And we anticipated that. Julie yesterday in her Friday reading, talked about how she thought something would go down. And it would involve, she said it would involve a persona. Well, it kind of did and kind of didn't. And it would be somewhere, that you would recognize. And in fact, something did go down. But let's give some context. Today is Flag Day, but it's also President Trump's birthday. So he's throwing himself a big party in Washington, D.C. with a military parade and a bunch of, MAGA heads showing up.
Well, to be fair, I think what they are relatives of the people that are in the parade. I think is mostly what they are.
That could be, yeah. Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. And then to counter that, we have the controlled opposition of the the Democratic goon squad. They're calling it No King's Day.
You want to put it on chat in case we?
Oh yeah, let me bring up chat. Yeah, so we're on YouTube, we're on Rumble, and we're on we'll be on Substack, but
okay.
I think the only place you can chat with us is on YouTube.
Okay.
Okay. So No King's Day. Now, it's not that I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that I'm really far away from the microphone.
I know you need to come closer.
So I want to make sure that I guess people can still hear me.
This is a pretty good mic.
I'm pretty far away, but I think it's okay.
Yeah, it's not like this one isn't like the one you use by yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. This is got surround sound.
Yeah. Surround.
Let's start little.
Okay.
The Nashville Public Library's parking garage suddenly set fire. So not the Nashville Public Library itself,
but the garage.
But its parking garage suddenly set fire, and there was smoke coming out of it. What do you make of that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, so I was just trying to level set here and just say, we've got the No King's Day, right, which is a big, massive protest in all the cities around the world, around the country. I mean, so it could be related to that.
Okay.
It could be just some shithead, lit a fire.
Mm-hmm.
Did they say what kind of fire? Could it have been a car fire?
Maybe it was a car fire. That would actually make sense.
So
if it was a car fire.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you think I
mean, what burns in a goddamn parking garage?
It's all car.
It's all concrete.
It's all right. Only a car would burn.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it's all concrete. What burns?
So So there were 4 shootings. Melissa Hartman and her husband were killed. The story goes that Melissa Hartman and her husband were killed. And then Senator John Hartman, the story goes that Senator John Hartman and his wife were shot, and apparently it was a related incident, but they weren't killed.
Okay.
So
where are they from?
Also Minnesota. It was just like around the corner, I guess.
So this they were Minnesotans.
So this is a Minnesota thing, right? Hey, where was Luigi from? Luigi Mangione. Where was he from? New York? Or where is the story of where he's from?
I'm not sure where he's from, but UHG
yeah, I know
is from Minnesota. That's what I'm getting at. Right.
There's your connection. Because what I had said yesterday at the end of my broadcast was it's going to be a location that we have already seen in the news that's really ginned up. Mm-hmm. And so I was going off all the different cities.
Right.
I ruled out Pittsburgh. I ruled out Chicago. I ruled out Los Angeles because of the riots that were happening there, or the stories of the riots, or the theater of the riots that were happening there prior to today.
Right.
I ruled out San Francisco because San Francisco is under constant siege.
Mhm.
The entire downtown financial district is boarded up and has been boarded up for 5 years. The fentanyl crisis, the people dying on the street, the mass exodus of the tech sector leaving San Francisco and moving to Austin.
Mhm.
And then I thought, well, maybe it's Austin.
Well,
because
they also introduced that new concrete lined public park called Sand Dunes Park,
right, and then
which nobody uses and goes to.
There's already a lot of stuff going on in different places. So you're right. Minnesota is sort of like the state du jour.
Right,
It's
well-
like the state that's going to get all the attention now.
Because
So-
during BLM, Minneapolis caught it, right?
Sure. So 5 years ago,
Right.
it was one of the first cities to fight against, quote unquote racism and support the BLM movement.
Right.
It was one of the first cities.
Right.
Is Target based out of Minnesota?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
So clearly Minnesota is like that state. Like,
Mhm.
okay, you are the designated like state that will be at the center of controversy for the activism of the day, whatever
Right.
it is.
Well, we both
Whatever
thought
it is,
we both thought that New Orleans was going to be the city du jour this year because the year started out with like that fake attack, that false flag attack
On January 1st.
on January 1st.
Right. I actually ruled that out as well. I ruled out New Orleans yesterday.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
So we've discovered. So what we're getting to the point here is that something's going on in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's the fallout from there
Well,
being the target?
It isn't a lack of cheese. So.
Isn't Wisconsin the cheese
Oh,
state?
right. Yeah. Minnesotan. Yeah.
Minnesota is the land of like 10,000 lakes or something, isn't it? Or that's Minneapolis.
No. Minneapolis is the city there. It's Minneapolis, St. Paul, or the.
I know.
Yeah. So
But isn't Minnesota
the land of lakes?
10,000 lakes?
something
Or
like
something
that.
like that?
I thought that was Wisconsin too.
No, that's Minnesota.
Yeah.
It's always been that.
Okay. Well. Okay. So, Minnesota. It's kind of surprising how much like big business is based there, right? So you got UHG, you've got Target. Seems like there's a couple other like. So it's the land of 10,000 lakes. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
10,000 flushes.
I remember when I moved to the Midwest, I met a bunch of people from Minnesota, and they had said, "Yeah, I'm from the land of 10,000 lakes." I'm like, I don't know what.
I don't know what that is.
I
What do
don't
you
know
mean
what
by
that is, and so I heard a lot that it was Minnesota. So it kind of stuck in my
Right.
consciousness.
Mhm.
There's 14,420 bodies of fresh water covering at least 10 acres each
Wow.
throughout the state.
That's a lot of
There's
lakes.
a lot of lakes in Minnesota.
Is that where they make that butter? Land O'Lakes.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
My people call it maize.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Sorry.
So what's going on with Minnesota besides the fact that UHG is there and they're basically, evil core.
Evil Core is based out of Minnesota. It's just. Oh, and then who's the fucking governor?
Tim Walz.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Walz ran with Kamala.
Mm-hmm. Right. So it is a viper pit of
Controversy.
the DNC and liberal bullshit. Right.
Right.
So when you were talking about what you thought was going to happen, I was like, yeah, okay, I'm on board with that. And then when we found out that these two senators were
one was a rep and one was a senator.
Okay, now were they state politicians? I think they were.
So it was Melissa Hortman had been she's been in office for 7 years, I think.
So they targeted her for one reason. Now, the reason I bring this up is because this morning when you told me what had happened, I thought that it would have been like this kind of thing where they were going to blame MAGA for it, right? Turns out, because it was like that's just perfect, right? We're opposing Trump, we're opposing gun violence, and they go after one of our own, That's a perfect setup, but it's even more devious than that.
Right.
They went after one of their own.
Right.
So I don't believe that this was. So the gunman allegedly had what kind of what kind of
He
publications?
had a whole bunch of pieces of paper, kind of like our scratch paper we keep
Yeah.
around the house,
Uh-huh.
that looked like this.
Yeah.
Like a big pile of it
Uh-huh.
in the back seat of his car,
Yeah.
of perfectly squared off white pieces of paper
Yeah.
that said no kings on them.
Okay. Right. So
Really?
So clearly he's on the liberal side, right? And
Mhm.
so what? So
That's the story. Anyway.
that's okay. So this is the narrative, right?
Right.
He's a liberal. He decided to go after this representative. Or
Mhm.
okay, her name is
Melissa Hartman.
Okay, so Melissa, moments or hours before she was allegedly shot down and killed, she made a statement about a vote that she
Right.
she committed.
A vote that she committed.
That
Right.
basically to go along with the Republicans on a
Right.
budget bill that basically was anti-immigrant.
Immigration. Right.
Yeah.
So she betrayed her own party. She betrayed the Democratic Party, and many Democrats, like Rashid Iliad, I think that's her name, Rashida, I believe is her name, came out and said that it was a betrayal. Somebody else, let's see, came out and said it was a betrayal. These are all people that are. I forget. Is that her name? No, Rashida Tlaib is from Michigan. Sorry, it's the other person, the other one that's from Minnesota, and they're always seen together.
So these senators are these?
Oh wait, no, it was her that she came out and spoke out against.
Yeah, she's got her little Palestinian.
Yeah, she spoke
scarf.
out against what. Now, why would somebody from Michigan care about what somebody from Minnesota voted?
Because they were going against the party.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, the sort of anti-immigration message. So 2020 was Black Lives Matter. Last year, 2024, was Gaza. This year, it's anti-immigration legislation and actions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so before I walk this whole thing down with you, what was who did the same gunman shoot the other politician?
That is
the other Minnesotan.
Unclear.
Okay,
that's unclear. So let's see. Former appointee of Tim Walz is sought in the killing of the lawmaker and her husband. Whoa! Now they're saying that the guy who did the shooting was somebody that was appointed by Tim Walz at one point, the governor. Talk about throwing your own governor under the bus.
Yeah,
making him complicit in these shootings.
This is getting deep.
This is getting weird.
Yeah, okay, really
so
weird.
Vince Luther Bolter, age 57, has been identified as the suspect in a shooting that left Melissa Hartman and her husband dead, and Democrat State Senator John Hoffman and his wife injured. So apparently this one gunman did all 4 shootings.
I wonder if they were in the same room at the same time, or if he decided to get on his bike and go to the other
I'm sorry,
politician's house.
Why do I find that funny? It's like
that's
really inappropriate.
Because that's like isn't that what Luigi did?
He just got on his bike.
He did something like that. He got on a bus
Luigi.
And then he got on and he went to went to McDonald's.
No, he went to Starbucks.
Did he go to Starbucks?
And then Starbucks had to come out and make a statement.
Right.
We are in no way supporting this kind of violence. Have a free coffee on us.
Right. Yeah. If you're in Minnesota.
I feel like somewhere in here we're gonna get a. See, look at that.
No kings. Oh, and it's handwritten too. It's not like it was like he went to Kinko's and had
well,
a
I
bunch
don't
of
think
things.
people need to go to Kinko's anymore.
Yeah, but
they can just do it at home.
I know they can do it at home, but you want to get if you want them all cut and
right.
looking
If you
good.
want 1,000 copies.
Right, you don't want to use your home printer. That's a lot of money for that ink. So, but he used a marker.
Yeah. So apparently the guy was appointed by Tim Walz.
Okay, what's a 57-year-old public official scrawling "No Kings" like 1,000 times on scraps of paper and putting them in his back car.
Former appointee.
I know, but he, I'm still saying it's like this is the professional class.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh. So he's reportedly the CEO of Red Lion Group.
Okay, so he's part of the bourgeoisie
and the Praetorian Guard Society Security Services. So he works. He's the CEO of Red Lion Group, and he works at a security company.
Okay, what the fuck is a person like that going and like murdering politicians?
Well, I'll tell you, they're probably not, but it makes a good story.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Mhm.
Thank you.
So where is Melissa now if she's not dead?
So what I was thinking and what I was saying to you earlier before you said, you know what, we need to get this like recorded.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, all right.
The look on your face.
But honey, I wanted to take a nap.
He did. He wanted to take a nap. It's been a rough week.
It has, and then today is like just shit show. We knew it would be a shit show today.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we went grocery shopping and did like very mundane things. But anyway,
You painted.
I painted the front. I painted the patch job on the vinyl siding. I was suburban. A couple of city people living in a small town. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, if we were living in San Francisco,
yeah, it'd be shit show.
awful
Well,
right now.
okay. A friend of ours reported that the mood outside his house in Chicago was weird.
Yeah.
What did
that's
he say exactly?
said. He goes, weird vibe outside right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I'm
I
not
wanted
surprised.
to say, like, what do you mean by that?
Well,
You know?
I think you know what he means. Anyway, so all right, so let's unpack this.
Is she dead?
So what I was saying this earlier was she's either dead. Okay, so so the Democratic Party took a hit on their own,
Right.
took out a hit on their own, or they were given new identities and told to Splitsville,
Okay. I have a theory.
or they didn't exist at all.
I think she existed.
Yeah, she existed. You can't be that public and not exist.
And I think that this is what happened. I think the video of her like crying and saying, I had to go against my party and vote for this anti-immigration bill, and I know I did the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
You notice that in that video clip, I don't think she mentioned the bill itself.
No.
She just said, and she cried and she said, I had to go and vote this way. And it was done under, we thought about this for a long time and we know that we made the right choice.
Yeah.
I think that is a clip from years ago.
Probably. And it was
she looks a lot younger. If you really look at that clip.
Interesting. See, I didn't look at it that closely.
She does not look 55 in that clip. She's supposed to be 55 years old yesterday when she allegedly made this recording. When she allegedly made this
not
recording.
that yesterday was her birthday. It was just
No.
Oh, I see.
Like when she allegedly made this recording, they said it came out like yesterday or something because she voted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then you have clips of a couple
I thought she said something about budget, but
whatever. But she didn't look. What I'm trying to say is,
I get it.
I think she died a while ago.
No, that's just something that I suggested earlier too.
Maybe the shot or something else.
That's
like
what I was.
that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too earlier.
And they just kept it under wraps.
Yeah.
Never really talked about it because what is happening now is cadavers are being used to bring back up, put into the limelight so that they could be used as like, oh, look, this person was murdered, or oh, look, this person committed suicide, but they've been dead for like years.
Right. Or months or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're being used. And I think that she's the perfect candidate for that because she hits that. There's this weird trend where 55-year-old women are being offed.
Well, 55-year-old people that hit 55 seem to be like, that seems to be
the target.
That's that angel number.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's an angel number. So so I think what happened was she died already. Nobody said anything about it. Nobody really made a comment about it. It was just a quiet death. And then they brought it up to say that she had died. Now, the fact that and then I think her husband was murdered.
Oh, well, that could be.
But I think so that it makes it look like a double homicide.
Yeah.
Okay. Or her husband did something else and it was so atrocious that they're saying that it was a double homicide. But I don't think that she was assassinated today.
Okay.
But I don't think that she's alive.
Okay.
But I don't think she was assassinated.
That's something that I thought about too this morning.
Mm-hmm.
When you first told me, I was like, well, it could be that she died before and they just like kept
That's
it under wraps.
That's the beauty of the countermeasures. That's the beauty of the biological compounds that can murder people.
Right.
This germ warfare, this biological warfare, this countermeasure. That's the beauty of it, is that you can just exterminate somebody, quietly hide them away until you need them to use them for your agenda. Yeah. And so they pull her cadaver out of the,
into a meat puppet show.
Right. Yeah. So the
meat puppets, weren't they from Minnesota too?
Oh, the meat puppets. Were they from Minnesota?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only
no, they were from New Mexico. Sorry.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah.
The only way that theory, that scenario doesn't work is she does have children.
Yeah.
She has 2 children, and it's hard or allegedly has 2 children. It's hard for children. How do you reconcile? You would have to brainwash the children early on. Mom just had to go away for a little while.
Oh, she's dead.
Oh no, mom was assassinated. See, I think mom died like in her sleep. Or mom, like check this out. A lot of people die in their sleep after they get the countermeasure. Okay. And quite a few of those adults have been discovered by their children. So imagine this. Mom falls asleep. Dad sees that mom is dead, tells the kids mom is asleep and has to go to the hospital. Because that's what her handlers and that's what, the establishment is telling him to tell the kids. So mom has to go into the hospital. We're going to hope that she gets better. Kids, you need to go away. You're going to go live with grandma in another state, or you're going to go live with other family members in another state while dad and mom work together to make sure that mom gets better.
How old are her kids? That makes a big difference too.
Yeah, they're not.
If she's 55, her kids are going to be like, she's almost empty nester.
Right. How old were her kids?
So
that's true. If they were already out of the house, what would they know? You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's not like they're 10-year-olds.
Right.
She's not going to have 10-year-olds at 55.
That's true.
I mean, she might, but I doubt it.
2 adult children.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So that tells me that it's even easier. Check this out. Father calls the adult children and says, your mom is sick. I'm just letting you know. And she's in a care home. And as soon as we can, we'll go visit her.
You don't even have to do that. You know why? Because she's busy doing her business.
And they don't, but what if she had a close relationship with them and they talk all the time or something?
But then how does that explain her appearing in the public forum of the government, state government, and making this announcement and then the next day?
I think the announcement was pre-recorded.
Right. No, I know, but okay. The timeline doesn't work. If mom's in a facility,
when mom is really on ice,
right? And then suddenly she's at the Senate or the
Well, yeah, because the kids would be like, oh, I guess she's back. I guess she's healthy again. And then, oh no, now she's dead. Oh no, that's so sad. Like, I don't know, because look, all I do know is that there is no way that a 57-year-old man who was a former appointee by Tim Walz went on a shooting spree and murdered these people.
So
how do you explain it?
Right. A lot of times I often, like, in these kinds of things, I don't care like how it was done.
I don't care how it was done.
Yeah. I'm more, I mean, I know we're trying to walk it down and like figure it out. Like, but I guess I'm more interested in the why and not the how, but like the why and the what was going on with that. You know?
Okay.
And so, I mean, it's fine. We should, it's good to like talk about that because it's like,
how do you exist if you're not dead?
Right.
What does she do? Just put on a black wig and go live in Guatemala? Like, I don't know.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
like-
It's like, was she renamed and like put under the witness protection, program?
Yeah.
And now she's like working at a quickie mart in buttfuck Arizona.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
but so I think that this is a way to undermine Tim Walz. Definitely. Like, look at the kind of people that you appoint, you asshole.
Well,
you appoint killers. Oh,
right.
No.
And we heard from someone the other day, it was like they were talking about Kamala and like Biden and how the people at the White House hated Kamala. Huh? You're fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and he was a shit show. I mean, they put him as her running mate because he was such a shit show. They didn't want her to win.
No.
That wasn't the point. The whole point was they put her out there to campaign 3 months before the election. Like how the American presidential campaigns start a year and a half
before the
election. And it's like, what are you going to do in 3 months? There's no time to ramp that up.
So this is about undermining him.
Right. But I think it's also, so ultimately, the reason I thought it was going to be a MAGA person responsible is because I thought they were going to throw it back onto Trump and bring it back to the whole no kings thing, right? Mm-hmm. And this anti-immigration sentiment that's going around, or whatever you want to call it, that's going around. Okay, they kept the anti-immigration thing, but they pushed the Trump thing aside. They brought it home and so they're taking a page out of Trump's playbook. Go after the people who are against what you are for. So Trump, he is known for like being just like vehemently, like he'll go after whoever opposes him. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who it is.
Right.
And he'll hit back 10 times harder.
Right.
This is what he did as a businessman. He would sue back. He would countersue 10 times harder than this lawsuit that was being put on him.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the way he works, and he's a fucking fascist, and that's why he does that. But so now the Democrats are going, okay, we don't have a lockstep going on with this anti-immigration thing. Okay, like we did with they didn't want a repeat of last year with Gaza and Israel.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so they're like, okay, let's do this. Let's make it. Let's have an alleged Democrat, a rogue Democrat, some asshole that Tim Walz. Oh right, like hairy balls. Right? Anyway, or whatever he said. Anyway, that was a comedian that we heard. So let's do that. But okay, so the reason that I came up with that idea is, and this is what made you say, we need to get this on recording. So we all saw a video that came out the other day. You want to describe it?
Yes, it was a trending video. It's trending hard on social media. It was trending hard on social media because a Republican Party operative made sure that it was trending hard. She happened to be at the right place at the right time. A Republican
How convenient.
Influencer her name is Sarah Hernandez, and she's really, really influential on all social media platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Wow.
She happened to be at the just perfect intersection
how
in the middle of downtown New York, where an operative with a man bun was confronting a working class Black woman. And it was all on video, and they're in a shouting match. And he and his handler, a 60-year-old woman who has a history of working with ACT UP, and has a history of activism. He and a bunch of other people and she were holding up traffic. And a Black woman gets out of her car and confronts them and says, "Could you please move? I need to get to work." And he says, "Don't you care about these horrible immigration policies. Don't you care about the immigrants?
Right.
And she says, well, don't you care about me? I've got to get to work so I can put food on the table and pay my rent.
Right. So the story with this is that it's designed to make you choose a side and get angry at one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's all fiction.
It's all fiction.
Parties,
Yeah.
including the person behind the camera, got paid for this.
Yeah,
This what you were watching,
including the
something
woman who had to get her kids to school.
Yeah, she's part of it too.
And to work.
It's all staged.
Right. It's all staged, right?
They all got paid very nicely
I'm sure.
for this little production.
So the dude
trended on social media.
Exactly. So the dude in the man bun, or with the man bun,
Mm-hmm.
he got he won a lawsuit against the city of New York.
Right. So people were saying that he was a trust funder. He has 4 names, and usually 4 names.
Yeah,
and
he's a
trust
he's a
funder.
professional student, so
Mhm.
he basically probably is a trust funder. But he also won a lawsuit against
The
city of New York,
who's now funding his life.
right? Basically because of BLM and
Mhm.
how they acted during the BLM protests, and he was part of the BLM protest. So now, so this is what they're basically telling you. This is the underlying thing.
Right.
We only care about the cause du jour because we create it.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to oppose whatever, right? And so we're going to create this kerfuffle or some sort of like, I know that's such an old man word.
No, it's fine.
We're gonna spin something up
Mm-hmm.
and get everybody excited and busy
Mm-hmm.
paying attention to this shit.
Mm-hmm.
When really what's going on is that we're making sure that everybody in America is becoming poor.
Right. Everybody in America is becoming poor, and I think we're being pushed into a
Mhm.
police state.
And we're being pushed into a police state, and they're part of that. They're also part of the poverty industrial complex. They don't care about poor people. In fact, if anything, they care about making sure they make money from poor people.
Right.
Okay. So you've got that. Then, so you've got the topic or the cause du jour, okay,
Mhm.
going on there. You've got the LA riots. You've got the No King's Day protests that are focusing on immigration
Mhm.
or anti-immigration policies and whatnot. Okay, so you've got those 3 things, and now you have this. It's focused on
Immigration.
yeah.
You mean the assassination?
Yeah.
The story of the assassination?
Right.
Right. It's the cherry
So
on it.
what they're so based, it's the cherry on the, yeah, you're right. It's like, and so they're basically telling you like, don't oppose us on this.
Right. Right. And then you have, check this out. You have a sheriff of Florida that came out and said, if you show any kind of violence, we will shoot to kill.
Right. Right. So he's on the MAGA side, right?
And and as I said in one of my broadcasts earlier this week, you also had the senator from California who was manhandled by the FBI agent
right.
for being a snarky questioner of Kristi Noem.
Right.
When he was questioning her tactics, he was basically showing her that he was smarter than her.
Right.
And she didn't like that, so had him terrorized, manhandled, and disappeared by the FBI. So there are a lot of people that are coming out and saying,
no Kings cards. Let's get some no Kings cards, or maybe that's the no Kings.
why don't you put that that on
that's
so
pretty funny.
people know what we're laughing at?
So Kev Truth says no Kings cards. That's what they found in his back seat.
Yeah. Right. Right. So basically the message is if you have an attitude and if you're smarter than me, we will have you arrested.
Yeah. So this follows through with like
this is authoritarianism.
Right. So this is basically going along with the whole Trump thing.
It's like when your parents says,
the Trump trope.
The parents really hate it when their kids outsmart them and always beat the crap out of their kids after their kids have outsmarted them. That's what this is.
Yeah.
This is authoritarianism.
So what this is all coming down to, and I think I don't know what ultimately what this all means because it hasn't revealed itself yet.
Yeah.
But what the outward signs are, this has nothing to do with immigration.
Mm-mm.
Right?
Mm-mm.
It has everything to do with you are going to follow our message
Mm-hmm.
or else.
Right.
And it doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on now.
Right.
Both sides are fucking fascists.
Mm-hmm.
And
and you're all allegedly, and you all have the potential to be assassins.
Right, exactly.
Now that one of our own
So I think, as you
has
said,
been assassinated.
earlier to me, you're like, we're already in it, but not quite. But we're heading into a police state,
right?
And this whole thing with the real IDs being forced on people. Like when we got our Mississippi driver's licenses, we didn't have a choice. We got the real ID.
We didn't even know we were getting it.
Yeah.
It's just we looked at our driver's licenses and it said real ID, and I was like, well, shit, we weren't even given an option to opt out.
No, because it's not an opt-out.
It's not an opt-out option.
Yeah.
Turns out it's no big deal.
It's not, but
it's not really. But
I think it's an opportunity for keeping track of people.
Sure.
I mean, I think it's more dangerous to have had Doge go in and get all those names
exactly
and information about people, so that Palantir can.
For those who are listening and don't understand, it's not just that Doge went in and fired a bunch of people who needed to work, and now we've got hundreds of thousands of people in the federal government that are out of a job and desperate, but that every single American now that was listed in these agencies, their social security numbers, their bank account numbers, whether they get food stamps or whether they're in public housing, whether they, whatever, all of our information was handed over to Doge, who then sold it to Palantir.
Right.
And that's why Trump and Musk had their, pretend falling out.
Right.
Because that was Musk selling, our information over to Palantir.
Right. He was no longer needed around the White House,
Right.
So they had to come up with a reason for him to go.
Right. So they pretended that Musk and Trump had a fallout.
Right.
Right.
Or else either that or Trump was objecting to the lack of money he was getting as a kickback.
Right. I know. Well, that's probably it right there. Trump is like, you mean I don't get anything out of this deal? And Palantir or Peter Thiel is like, you get to stay president. That's your.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, fuck that. I want $1 billion.
Right.
Right. I want to get something out of this.
Right.
And so there's that.
But I think ultimately this is about, and I expect who knows, it might still happen. Something might go down with the protests.
Yeah, I've been looking. I don't know.
Yeah. But here's the thing. They call this big protest, but the country and the politicians are pushing such an anti-protest idea or concept, other sort of like, what am I trying to say? It's go protest, but you shouldn't protest. Like Americans.
This is what I don't understand.
Right?
Right? Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying.
And I think that, again, we keep coming back to the hyper normalization,
right,
where you're getting two messages that are opposing each other at the same time, coming from the same apparatus.
Because we're still under well, no, actually, we're not under a COVID health emergency, but there are other emergencies that still remain, which would then, if people understood the way emergency declarations work, it's you can't go out and protest, and yet you've got billions of dollars, under the nokings.org,
whatever
media hype marketing agency telling you to defy emergency orders and go out and protest anyway. So no wonder Americans are confused and literally don't know what the fuck is going on in the world and are just totally is because they're getting so many different messages and from so many different, right. So it's so bizarre.
So the reason I bring this up, the Democrats are saying, go protest. No, you shouldn't protest is because they had one of their own, allegedly, a liberal, go out and murder another Democrat. Right. Because of the immigration stance.
Right.
So this person crossed the line on immigration, but then we have this rogue, former public figure appointee who's going out and killing people. What the fuck? That's like all over the map.
It is.
Right. And so
it's chaos.
It can only lead to confusion and not understanding what the hell is going on, which is deliberate, right?
So this is the same kind of thing that happened
Stay
prior
at home.
to 9/11.
Right. Yeah.
Lots of chaos,
Yeah.
lots of language, and lots of conflicting agendas and conflicting events that were happening. Things didn't make any sense.
Right. I remember
a lot
that.
of really heightened,
Right.
energetic, even in like Moulin Rouge, which was basically like 2 hours of cocaine on celluloid.
Right.
Came out like a month before.
Well,
9/11.
when is it? June, like a couple months, but still.
Came out
that whole
the summer before.
Right.
Yeah.
That whole summer, I remember was like, what the fuck? The
Yeah.
media was just off the chain, right?
Yeah.
And it was like all these like crazy things were going
So
on
maybe
that summer.
Maybe all this is telling us is that we're going to get an October surprise. Think about it. Everyone keeps talking about my birthday, October 7th,
Mhm.
because all of these things are ramping up in the Middle East.
Mhm.
Putin's birthday,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? Maybe we're going to get an October surprise. I mean, because this is insanity. Having somebody, the story that Tim Walz appointed an individual, and then that individual, a Democrat, went out and murdered
Mhm.
another Democrat because she allegedly voted against her own party, is so crazy.
Right. It is.
It's so crazy that it defies logic in every sense.
Right.
So what is really going on?
Well, I think that
You know?
I think that they're basically telling the rank and file, fall in step or else.
Right.
Okay, that's one message. But I think the other message is just basically, like you were saying earlier. I mean, you must obey,
Mhm.
and we don't care. We just don't fucking care. Here's the other thing that I thought was interesting that you pointed out the other day. After the whole Israel being attacked by Iran. I mean,
I know this. Oh, right. The right. So do you want me to repeat it, or do you?
Yeah, because you were saying. Well, go ahead. So Israel attacked Iran, and then acted all butthurt like they were the ones that got attacked.
As usual. That's their modus operandi.
Right,
But what I noticed was that on cue, as if they had a gun to the back of their head, and as if they were under hostage. So if you've ever seen a hostage video,
right,
the victim is sitting in front of the camera looking terrified, and then there is a menacing hand holding a gun behind the victim's head,
right,
and the victim is reading something,
right,
and that says, "I'm actually really happy here. Things are wonderful. I'm being fed. I'm happy and healthy. Not to worry." Okay.
I get regular BJs. Stop.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So the victim is under duress and forced to read something that her captors or his captors wrote out for them to read, so that they can try to convince the public that everything's okay.
Right.
That's exactly the messaging that was coming out from every senator and every representative on their Twitter feed.
And this was on both sides of the aisle?
This was on both sides of the aisle.
Right.
Israel is we stand with Israel. We love Israel. Israel has a right to protect itself from Iran.
Right.
Poor Israel being attacked by Iran.
Right.
Oh no, God bless Israel. It was the same tweet on every senator's, every representative's Twitter page.
Right.
And I was thinking, okay, our Congress, our body politic is under duress.
Mm-hmm.
They are under duress. They have lost all of their power.
Exactly.
They have lost all of their influence.
So
there is a coup literally that has taken place, and they all have the gun to the back of their head, and they are all reading from a script, and they are all under duress.
And I was going to make a connection.
And one of them just got assassinated.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
But, I was going to make a connection with all this. It's like, and I kind of lost the thread, but I don't know. What do you think? Like, so it's really weird that you had that last week, and now you had somebody go against the whole, immigration thing, and she allegedly gets murdered.
And then she allegedly went against the, like, do I even
Right.
believe that she?
Well, right, exactly.
I mean, how do we know that this wasn't, again, that clip of her speaking,
Right.
where she's like,
Thank you. Yeah.
I voted, and I took it under a consideration, and I thought long and hard about this, and this is the way I voted. It could have been about fucking, selling Snickers at the local grocery store. Like, it could have been anything.
Right.
But they applied it to, they applied it to the immigration bill. Now, it probably was. It probably is legitimate. I'm sure somebody out there will be like, no, she said the word immigration. No.
Yeah, I have to go back and watch the
And
video.
like, nobody can fuck with a clip and
Right.
turn it into AI. I've done it, and put in language
Sure.
that
Sure.
that
Right. Exactly.
doesn't exist, and pretend that it does. Like,
Right.
so this is so. And I hate to get into quantum physics and all this bullshit, but there is another trending, like, attitude out there,
Really?
where
What's
people
that?
are having a hard time with time. They're like, is time slowing down, speeding up?
Mhm.
And that has to do with all the time that people spend on social media, and that the ridiculous part of AI, not the part that's going to take over your jobs or your world, but the parts where they can go in and put fake time and date stamps on things, insert language into speeches that didn't exist before,
Right.
Change the past,
Right.
change, someone's, so how do we know that video of her saying that she crossed the aisle and voted with the Republicans
Was even real. Yeah.
And even about immigration. Like,
Yeah,
everything is a lie. And the only thing that kind of makes my theory fall apart is, how do you get away with it? Like, how do
Right.
you?
I know.
Because I don't believe she was assassinated.
But here's the thing: how did they get away with COVID? Like, remember how in lockstep that whole thing was? Right.
Yeah.
It was like on every front. Like, how do you pull something like that off?
It's easy because it's unseen.
Right.
It's not a senator that you see at work every day.
Right. Well, I mean, that's
Or a
what we've been saying about, like, a lot of these false flag, like, shootings. Like, like, we get to Pittsburgh, we moved to Pittsburgh, and then, like, 2 months later, we have a synagogue get attacked, and it's like, this isn't right, because we did a little research and found out, all kinds of, like, crazy backstory shit.
Yeah.
And
like,
it's
the
like
FBI had come and shut down that neighborhood.
Right.
Like, just a few weeks prior to the event.
It was a
like,
big it was a big congregation. So who's to say, who
really died?
Who really died? I mean, who?
They had a change in staff.
Right.
They had a changeover in staff. A lot of people abandoned this synagogue prior because of that changeover. It became more conservative. Like, in Pittsburgh's a liberal city. Like, it was so obviously an FF.
Right. So
a double F.
So the two people, or the elderly people that were allegedly killed, were personas. It's easy to make personas for that.
Oh, I thought there were more than two people that were killed.
Yeah,
the story was.
Yeah, I think it was like, it was a few people. I don't know how many, but I was thinking it was like, a couple, but that's just it. It's a big congregation. You can really get away with that.
Mm-hmm.
I never met those people, but they were part of our congregation. Oh, that's appalling. Oh,
So you're thinking that maybe she herself was even a persona, even though she has a Wikipedia page?
No, I don't think so.
No. Okay.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
Right.
They really pulled off a coup d'etat, or not a coup d'etat. They really pulled off a major campaign here.
Right.
Because how do you, without actually killing somebody, and she could have been killed.
Yeah.
She could have been assassinated. See, this is the other thing.
This
is why I keep going back and forth. It's like this is why I say,
okay, well,
they either killed their own, or they gave her, a new identity and sent her off to, wherever.
Let's default to the framework by which how we live our lives. The simplest answer is always the correct one.
Right.
It is so easy to assassinate someone. We've seen Michael Clayton.
Right. That was the other thing I was, when you were talking about like, oh, well, mom died in her sleep, or somebody snuck in and shot her out between her toes.
Exactly. So it's easy to murder someone. It's super easy to murder someone. And so the persona isn't the victim. The persona is the assassin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. This 57-year-old appointee by Tim Walz.
Yeah. And I was going to get to that. I was kind of thinking about that. That was kind of bouncing around the back of my head.
All right. So maybe now in the, little bit of time that we've been streaming, maybe by now I've changed my tune.
Yeah.
And I think, okay, maybe she was assassinated by either one of her own or somebody in the opposition.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely a mob hit. So that's usually mob hits. It has the Democratic Party written all over it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's like, he committed suicide by shooting himself in the back of the head twice.
Right. Or the one Democrat Hillary aide who, like, his barbell fell on his neck when he was working out.
Yeah,
like, really?
Yeah.
So
be a shame for that neck to crack.
So but the Republicans don't do that. The Republicans they have a little more finesse. They'll
straight up tell you what they're going to do.
Yeah, they'll just be like, you have to have checkpoints now.
Yeah.
If you decide to leave the state, because you could be an assassin.
Right.
So.
And we hate the poor, so what we're going to do is we're going to make it so that you have to work 3 jobs. Mm-hmm. We're also going to make it so that you don't get any assistance if you can't do those 3 jobs.
Right.
Whatever the fuck.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're going to make sure that those 3 jobs don't pay enough to even pay for make enough for one job.
Right. So we're going to make you poor. So the Republicans are just they don't do mob hits on their own.
They're fucking Victorians.
Exactly. They're fucking Victorians, the way the Democrats do. So you either live in, like a Godfather movie with the Democrats, or you live in a Dickens novel with the Republicans.
Right.
Where you're just living in squalor and poor and hungry and fucked up. So I think now I have, what'd you say?
Polluted cities.
I think now I've switched my opinion. I do believe she was assassinated, but definitely not by this persona.
No, he's the persona.
Right. And his name
is Luigi.
It's Vance Luther Bolter, age 57. Vance. Okay. Interesting.
Vance. JD
Vance. Whoa. Okay. And then Luther Bolter. So interesting, because we know 2 people with the name Luther. One with his last name being Luther, and then another one with his first name being Luther.
Yeah.
But it's just weird because I never met a Luther in my life, and now I know 2 over the last couple of years. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and then Bolter is the last name. So, do you think do you think that this is sort of I know.
Well, I think even the man bun dude in New York is a persona, even though he's a real person.
Yeah.
But he's a persona.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got 4 names.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and it's a very
he's supposed to look like a trust fund kid.
Yeah. He does very good at looking like a trust fund kid.
Yeah.
What about the senator and his wife who survived?
Okay, so I don't know. He
so his name is Senator John Hoffman. How did he I wonder what his background is. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that just to make it look legitimate?
Well, it might be, and he might not have even really been hurt or shot,
He got into politics because he wanted to help his neighbors.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, maybe what he should have done is gone out there and filled some fucking potholes.
Right, exactly.
and helped his neighbors that way.
Right.
Why get into politics? If you
Yeah.
really want to help your neighbors, I guess it's not
Right.
really the best way, as we've seen. Yeah, that was that's what makes this whole thing really screwy. It's just it doesn't make sense, and I think it's not supposed to.
Do you think that there's going to be another event that will come out of the No Kings protests
I was
happening
expecting
across
that.
the country?
I was kind of expecting it. I mean,
Or has
it's-
this just knocked
it's
the
still-
wind out of that sail,
well,
of those sails?
I don't know. Maybe it wasn't meant designed to distract people from those things, but those things are going on. I mean, the West Coast is 2 hours behind us, so it's like that's 2:15 on the West Coast. So things are still going on.
Mm-hmm.
Something still could go on.
Mm-hmm. Something could still happen.
I'm sure Washington D.C. is wound down. Naomi Wolf did some self-sabotage by getting stuck.
In New York.
How convenient to be stuck in New York and complain about it. It's not like she didn't have any heads up or anything.
So
maybe she can leave now.
What?
Maybe she can leave now.
Yeah, considering it's 5:15 out there, right? So do you think that we're headed into a police state through Peter Thiel's surveillance?
I think we're heading into
apparatus.
a police state through all channels.
Through all channels.
Yeah. And I think that this kind of like crazy spun up shit is just a distraction. I mean, we've just spent we've been talking for almost an hour on this thing, and we still haven't figured it out. And we're usually pretty good at figuring things out. And so the thing is I believe that this was a 100% distraction.
Right. Which one? The protest or the assassination?
Both, but mostly the assassination.
Is a distraction
from just what's going on. The fact that, what they're trying to accomplish is a police state. If nothing happens with the protest, like somebody doesn't get killed at a protest or some like fucking, agent provocateur, black bloc Antifa shit takes place, somewhere, that's their normal go-to to like, warrant the need and necessity for having, martial law or something. Then this stuff is basically kind of stepping us towards that. What was that? Goose stepping us to into the ovens. Right. As what was his name? That psychologist. He said that.
Goose stepping us into the oven. Are you talking about like a current psychologist?
Yeah. He's like in his 80s, and he was.
Oh, you mean Peter Breggin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe he's a psychiatrist, but whatever. He said that something like, we've all been goose stepped into the ovens.
Right. I keep thinking that if you look at this like philosophically or even just like existentially, that freedom is, and the idea of freedom or autonomy is becoming malleable. I have this like image of my mind as a 90-year-old woman sitting in my little rocking chair with, little children sitting around me and me saying, boys and girls, there was one day in my lifetime that when I was your age, I didn't have to raise my hand and ask teacher if I could go to the bathroom. I was just able to get up and say, and the teacher knew, and no one ever cared. Yeah. Now, so it's all about permission. Right. It's all about permission to be free.
Well, I mean, we even have the phrase permission-based blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
And there's, and like with it, like the computer world, like if you have an account with something, you have certain permissions to, for your usage level. Right. So yeah, I know it's weird, right? I mean, these are all, but so words are important.
It is. Yeah, it truly is. Right. Words are important. I think that I think it's interesting too that like especially with the introduction of the COVID language into our lives,
Mhm.
it really did put the nail in the coffin. It was like, can I please not have to show you proof of a negative test in order to go to Thanksgiving dinner or keep my job or
Right.
go to the movies or go see a show or go walk into a park or go ride my bike or get on a ferry or get on a bus or do anything?
Right.
You shouldn't have to
And this,
ask that if you can have permission to do that without showing a thing.
right, exactly.
Like,
and then,
that what is that about? That people were just normalizing and reshaping this autonomous existence.
well, and at the same time, I mean, the fuckery has been going on for for a long time, but like the fuckery around all that, also the
Mhm.
word kindness got used
Mhm.
in a twisted way to where it was like, if you're kind,
Then you'll just put on a mask, get a vaccine, lay down and let yourself get stomped on.
and
Yeah.
and then you can go to Thanksgiving.
Look, it's really important, JP, that when I'm cold, you set yourself on fire.
Right.
That's
And
if you're my husband, you'll be kind to me and do that.
exactly. Now,
If you love me, you'll set yourself on fire so I can stay warm.
Right. Right. Well, what happens when I burn out?
You know, it's like,
yeah,
it doesn't make any sense.
No,
it's totally flawed. It's a flawed logic.
Right. And I think that that's what's
You
going
know?
on here. But I saw a T-shirt today when we were at the store,
Uh-oh.
and this woman had this T-shirt that said, "Kindness knows no bounds," and I was like, "That's bullshit."
That is bullshit. That is bullshit. A lot of people who are talking about how kind they are and how it knows no bounds are holding people captive right now.
Yeah.
And so we have a giant segment of our population that has Stockholm syndrome. And I would say that, I don't mean to get too deep into this, but I think children have Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
And I think it's the very few rare children that know that their parents are, fucking assholes.
Well, I think that
are just like, no, and they don't have Stockholm syndrome, and they grow up not having Stockholm syndrome as adults.
I think there's levels of it, because I think everybody in America, since the founding of the fucking union or the country, since the founding of the United States, people have had some form of Stockholm syndrome. Because because what was being said,
because America
what was being said was, come help us, the bourgeoisie, overthrow the tyranny of the monarchy. And then what happens? Well,
they never got their cut.
Right. I mean,
they were just they were kicked to the curb.
And the only time we're ever given a bone or given like some more permissions or more, rights or whatever, is when they need us to do something for them. Right.
Yeah.
So, at the beginning,
they don't need us anymore.
Right. Exactly.
That's what's going on. They don't need us anymore. So boom, we're going to create all this chaos. We're going to create total fallacies in logic.
And hopefully you'll turn on each other.
And things are not going to ever make sense again for you in your life because we don't need you anymore. So we're going to assassinate representatives and senators. We're going to tell your kids they have to wear a mask and chain themselves to their
computers. We're going to let some
computers.
goon squad go into a bureaucratic system that exists on rules. Yeah,
Doge.
exactly.
Yeah,
we're going to break our own laws.
We're going to let the mob come in, and we're going to go against the foundation that this country was allegedly founded on, and even the way that Kennedy has like all this power over our autonomy and freedom of movement, like he's got the most power in the country.
Right.
RFK Jr. So Congress, check it out. Congress gave him all the power. Congress said,
well, that role, that role, right? They didn't say RFK Jr.
All of the freedom of movement, closure of businesses, wearing a mask, deploying of vaccines defaults to him.
Well,
so that nobody in Congress, so that if he stands up and says, I now dictate that the entire country needs to get the flu shot by this date, there's nobody in Congress that can fight that.
That's right. But my point is, and I'm just being specific here, that particular office
Oh, it
whoever
shouldn't even
holds
exist.
it, but
Yeah.
whoever holds it has that power.
Right.
Before it was Becerra.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So before it was
Becerra?
Javier
Yeah.
Becerra, and before that it was Alex. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, but you get my point.
Yeah. So
it doesn't matter who it is.
It doesn't matter who it is. Anybody who is the HHS secretary.
Right.
But the thing is, and so the American people are going, that's terrible. Oh my God. How could, because we are supposed to be a country ruled by law and legislation and not by dictatorship.
Right.
Well, the thing is nobody is Congress didn't even have the power itself to hand that power over to him.
And yet they did it.
Right. So Congress.
So how'd they do that? That's a hat trick.
It was like it's a hat trick. It's a non-law supported by another non-law.
Right.
Like, how can you live in a system of non-law?
That's why they're able to break their own laws.
Non-law.
Yeah, that's why they're able to break their own.
You know who has the power to give him that power? The voters.
Yeah,
the voters have to vote and say, we want the Secretary of Health, whoever it is, to dictate that we all need to get COVID shots by July 3rd.
Well, that works all the time, doesn't it?
You know, and the voters would then vote, and then the representatives would say, okay, well, my district in Georgia wants to do this, or my district in California wants to do this. And then they would compile the votes, the yays and the nays. And if the yays won, then they would have to take those votes. You see what I'm saying? There's a process.
Right, yeah.
It's called process or due process. And none of that's happening.
Right, because it's a fiction in the first place.
Right, because you've got non-law based on non-law. So Congress never even had the power to give the HHS secretary role the power in the first place.
Right.
They just created it out of non-law. Like what they basically said is they put the voting public and they just lit a match and blew them up and said, you don't matter anymore.
Right.
Like, you don't matter anymore.
Exactly.
So anyway, it's, I don't mean to go off on that tangent, but it's to me, it's mind boggling, because in France and in the Netherlands and in even Spain and in other countries, you still have some semblance of a process where the legislative body doesn't have all the power and has completely moved the people out of the system. Like, they took the principles of the, American Constitution and applied them to their own countries, and they're actually better than this country. They actually work better in some ways. Yeah. I mean, of course, we're cynical, so everything
is...
France,
in France, it's like a bribe will get you anything, basically. But, you know.
So, and somehow, they're allowed to burn Paris down and not have a police state.
Right.
So, who knows how that happens?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, who knows? We don't live there, so we don't know. But I have a feeling it's not as bad as here.
Right.
I mean, it's like, when we moved here, to Mississippi. So the final move, when I went up there to go get a truck. I forget how it worked. I was like, at some point I had to fly, and I forget if I was flying to Pittsburgh or...
Well, you left here and you flew to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And you took a lift to go get the truck, and then you drove the truck back to the house.
At some point I had an encounter in the airport. Like, I walked past the, the line for, going through the security. Like, what is that when you're pre-check?
Yeah.
I walked past the pre-check and I kept going, and I was getting to the end of, like, basically the airport. And there's a fucking soldier there with a goddamn,
In Pittsburgh?
In one of these airports, and I forget which one it was. I don't remember if it was
because you wouldn't be flying.
Right.
It would have been here.
So I can't remember. I can't remember the trip that I was taking. Right. I don't know if it was I was flying down here, or
you didn't fly down.
I didn't fly down here
ever. Yeah. So it must have been when you were either leaving the Pittsburgh airport and you saw a soldier, because there are no soldiers here. It's a tiny little airport.
I know they don't have them here, the military here. Everybody's former military, so they don't need to have the military here.
Right.
But what I guess at some point I was taking a trip, and I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
And I had to get into that line, but I walked past it, and there was some sort of soldier with a big fucking automatic, weapon.
Wow, that must have been really scary to see.
I was like a little freaked out because it's like, wow. So that right now they're sort of in the background, but they're there.
They're there. That's your point of this
story. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Because we have to be safe, Julie.
Right. It's like when our former neighbor was being followed by a cop for some reason, and I don't know why. And she told me, and I was like, for like 2 weeks straight, a cop was tailing her when she would walk because she walked to work.
Right.
And I was like, and she goes, it's to keep me safe. I was like, oh my God, no, it's not.
No, it's so not.
You stupid idiot.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So I think that what we're dealing with,
that's the police state right now.
That's the police state right now.
It's at a level, it's hiding in the background.
So I think what's going to happen is that this assassination and then whatever bullshit comes out of the protests today, and of course all the shenanigans that went down in LA over the last week or so.
Right.
Prior to the today, I think it's all just going to lead to martial law, police state,
right.
Curfews. What better way to close down small businesses even more?
Right.
What better way to shut down your economy even more?
Right. And I think we've gotten to the point where it's like even the Democrats aren't even at the place of gun laws. Like they're not even it's like they've gone past that now. This is not even about your gun rights,
right?
The second amendment or anything like that. This is way past that. They've just basically blown past it, and they're like, yeah, we don't think about that. We don't talk about that anymore because we don't care, right? It's not about taking away your guns. It's not about gun safety. It's not about gun violence. This is about something else because they had one of their own shoot.
One of their own. Exactly. So I think we're headed into a police state. So what does a police state look like? And then we'll wrap this up.
Yeah.
What does it look like?
Because we're at, almost 1.25 hours.
What does it look like?
Well, I think, you mentioned it earlier in this broadcast and to me earlier, when you want to cross a state line, you'll have to do
I don't think I mentioned it in the broadcast, but I did.
Yeah, just briefully. Checkpoints.
I mentioned it to you. Oh, checkpoints.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I did say the word checkpoints.
Yeah.
So we're looking at checkpoints.
And I feel like
that's probably what it is.
We're already
the most. Have it.
We're already the most surveilled. Yeah, we're already the most surveilled society in the world ever in history. Because we carry around, these little things they call phones. Right. Because you have to have them. You can't get a landline anymore. So you have to have some sort of telephonic device with you at all times, and it's easy to track you that way.
Yeah.
So we left our phones at home today when we went to the store.
So lately, what we've been doing now that we know the area much better and we kind of know where we're going, we don't need Google Maps or GPS to tell us, how to get to certain places, regular places that we go, our favorite, eating establishment or our grocery store or wherever.
Right.
So the last few times that we've left, we just leave the phones at home.
Yeah. But so I think a police state is going to be a lot more subtle.
Yeah. Just like with everything.
Right. So it's subtle now, right?
It's
where you have
the
soldiers are in the background.
Right.
At the airport. You don't see them. Like in Europe, and this has been going on for decades.
Right.
In Europe, you see the soldiers walking around with Uzis or whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You see it. It's up front. Here, it's in the background. You don't see it as much. And then you've got the slap together TSA thing as if that's a temporary thing that's been around for 25 years or 24 years now. It one day will.
25 years is coming up, isn't it?
No, it's next year.
Next year. Okay.
But here, but it's like, it's like, I'm
just trying to think.
This will go away. Sure. It's all slapped together. It makes it, it's all haphazard. Sure. It's temporary. No, it's not. That's what a police state looks like.
Yeah.
Or what will look like. I think that there will be, I don't know if we're going to get martial law. If we
Yeah,
do
I don't
get
think
martial
so.
law, we'll get it through other means. We've already had it through
Right.
COVID.
Right. And so, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Like maybe they'll come down really, 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 really hard, and then just ease up a tiny bit, and then that's our new normal.
Mm-hmm.
Is slight oppression.
And the other
You
thing,
know?
yeah, and then the other thing too is everybody's like worried about like digital currency,
No, yeah.
and it's like that's not going to do it
not-
either.
yeah.
No, they can already control
Right.
things much more subtly
Right.
than they need to. Watch any of our or watch the whole breadth of our videos to see what we're talking about. I mean, even like, you buy a ring for your front door, there you go. You've just joined the fucking police state.
Exactly.
We've joined the police state.
You do it yourself.
You do it to yourself.
You're giving yourself martial law. You're policing yourself.
Right.
So what is the point of the story of the assassination then? If we're already policing ourselves and we are already carrying around our own little ankle monitors through these smart devices.
It's to keep you, it's to keep you distracted from the fact that you don't have a job, that you're facing some of the worst. Like it's to distract you from the fact that the economy is rigged, that our society is unfair,
and that we're being euthanized.
And we're being used as a means of financializing. Like we are being drained of our assets.
Right. Totally.
Through
debt.
All the debt that's going on. Every day I get like an offer for a personal loan or some credit card or something. And by the way, credit cards don't work the way they used to.
Right.
They're much more.
Yeah. You have to have some debt in order to have good credit.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. And so
it's a totally different system now than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago, where, hey, all your credit cards are paid off. Good job. You have an 800 credit score. Now it's like, oh, well, you don't use your credit card ever, and you don't have like $1,000, $1,500, $5,000 worth of debt. Oh, well, your credit score is only 500.
Right. Yeah, it goes down.
It goes down.
And if you take a loan out for a house or a car, it doesn't count towards as much towards your credit score as it would if you had a credit card where you keep the debt on there. But here's the other thing, back before the 2008, Great Recession, which was also blamed on people, right, for being, irresponsible with their debt.
Right. And none of those that committed the waste, fraud, and abuse were sent to jail.
Right. But the point that I'm trying to make is and I agree with you, the point that I'm trying to make is that back then they were pushing like fucking, drug pushers. They were pushing the idea of credit card debt and like making it really cheap, and they'd make it easy and affordable and cheap sounding if you bounced from one credit card company to another. So you'd take the credit or the debt from one card and put it on another card, and they'd give you like points and credits and like, or you'd reduce your interest rate by doing that. And so now you'd transfer your debt from one credit card company that was charging you X amount of dollars to another credit card company for less than X amount of dollars per, or, percent, whatever. And so they were basically like getting you to get into the idea of like always having debt and making it attractive and something you need to have. They're doing it again, but they're doing it differently now.
Right.
And they're basically lying to you because like they'll say, oh, a personal loan. We've seen it. A personal loan to basically take care of credit card debt. Well, if you look at the numbers, because they're treating it like a loan, now you're paying, what do they call that? Not a finder fee, a fee that's
it's pretty substantial.
The word is not coming to me, but it comes from like when you have a home loan. The person who creates the loan for you, it's some sort of like
like a service fee.
Yeah, it's a service fee, but it's like for creating the loan. And I forget. I really wish I could find the word. It's not coming to me.
Yeah.
But you pay that fee for that personal loan to pay off the credit card debt. the interest rate may be lower than what you're paying on the credit card, but the credit card debt is the interest rate on the credit card is already some like through the roof.
It's just called a servicing fee.
There's
No?
a specific word for it.
Okay.
And it's like a creation fee or
Okay.
yeah, what do they call it? Anyway,
Yeah.
but so say you take out a $10,000 loan, you only get
8,500 of it.
8,500 of it.
Initiation fee.
Something like that. Not initiation. There's another fucking word for it.
Setup fee, initiation fee, origination fee.
Origination fee.
Okay.
Okay. So you pay that origination fee
Mm-hmm.
because you're getting a personal loan now. So
Right.
you're not getting the full amount of money, but you're paying the interest rate on that full amount of money.
Right. Which is BS.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now
Everything's
you're getting,
rigged.
because the credit card rates are so high,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, well, that's like not a very, low bar to get under. So you can, they take 10% off of that interest rate,
Right.
and you're still paying a high interest rate
Right.
on a loan that paid off that credit card debt, but you're almost paying off more money,
Mm-hmm.
or you're not getting the full value out of that
Right.
loan that you would have if you
I
had
get it.
just kept the credit card debt.
Right. Right. So
it's I know this is a real tangent, but I guess
yeah.
it illustrates how things are rigged
mhm.
and how they get people.
So the assassination is to distract people from poverty, from the fact that the housing market is at a place where homes are sitting empty, buildings are sitting empty, and yet you've got a ton of homeless people. How people who never, ever, ever, a demographic of people who never, ever, ever in their life ever were unemployed are now unemployed.
Mhm. Yeah.
These are the people who would saunter into an interview or have a Teams call or some kind of video call where they were interviewed, and the next day they were offered the job. Suddenly they find themselves out of work for the last year, the
Right.
last 6 months, whatever. So all of this is happening. So it's creating a psychological break. It's creating a break with reality. People don't know how to cope. People don't have the coping mechanisms to deal with this strange new world. And so this nice, exciting story, which attacks your amygdala of an assassination of this, sweet representative,
Mhm.
attacks your
who went with her heart on her
Right.
boat.
Right.
Right.
And it happened to go against the grain. That's
Right.
another thing. Go against the grain and you'll be killed. There's all sorts of messages here.
Yeah.
So that's what this is about, I guess. And I'll go ahead and say, switch my opinion on this. I guess she really is dead.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't want to believe it, but I guess she really is.
Or she could
So-
be in a Guatemalan prison.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe those were just blue contact lenses and she dyed her hair brown to blonde.
Or AI.
Or
But-
she's AI.
Well, or they, because they didn't show us the murder, right?
yeah.
They didn't show her.
course
She didn't
not.
show us
Yeah.
her getting shot. They didn't show the bodies or anything, right? So it could be that she just got disappeared.
Yeah.
God, here I'm like thinking the good thing, like, oh, she was given, a new identity. No, she could be
No.
rotting in a prison somewhere.
Yeah. She
Because
I
this
think-
whole thing with
I
Guatemalan
think
prisons,
that she
right?
was Michael Clayton. I think she
You
was
think so?
Michael Clayton. Yeah. I think somebody shot her
Or
and then
shot her up between her toes.
Well, no, probably just walked in and knocked on her door and she opened the door and killed her. And they're getting away with it. And then the person that they're claiming did it is
Right.
a persona. Now
Right.
that person is
Yeah.
AI.
Yeah.
This
Or whatever.
Vance
Right.
Luther Bolter,
Right.
age 57.
Right.
Come on.
I mean, nothing washes with that.
No,
you know?
no, not at all.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah. Okay.
um,
Well, it's basically the messaging is that, everything's rigged against you, and that if you go against what we're telling you to do,
mhm.
then, you're dead
Don't go
one way or another.
Right. So as we learned from the woman who was assassinated, representative from Minnesota, as we learned from her, don't go with your gut, go with the flow. And as we learned from Alex Padilla, don't be a smartass.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So somebody
Don't
on-
ask questions.
and don't ask questions. So somebody on Twitter said, Well, he was being a real asshole. And I said, you know how many assholes walk around
And
this
are,
planet
that are on this very platform?
that are on this very platform and are literally like, I'm friends with assholes. I've had, conversations with assholes. Guess what? Sometimes, I know it's hard to believe, but sometimes I'm an asshole. So please don't shoot me. Don't put me up against the wall and
Right.
execute me
Right.
for being an asshole.
Right.
Like suddenly it's justified that the guy gets terrorized and disappeared by FBI agents
Right.
because he's an asshole.
Julie, you have to be kind because kindness knows no bounds.
Yeah, but then you have to start defining, well, what is kind?
Right, exactly.
Like, I think kindness is being an asshole.
Well, it's kind of like being an asshole.
So it's like all of these apologists, especially on Twitter, that were like, well, he was smarter than her, so he deserves the wall.
Right.
He deserves to hang on the wall because he was smarter than our, Secretary of Homeland Security.
How convenient we start using that phrase that comes from a TV show about oppression.
Well, some people were using it jokingly.
Yeah, I know.
And some people
I know, but it's still
still
that phrase gets out there. It doesn't matter if you're using it, in an ironic manner or not.
Right. So for that entire day that he was arrested, I was like, so this is my opinion. Now don't shoot me.
Right.
This is my opinion. Please don't arrest me.
Right.
I'm being an asshole here. Don't put me on the wall.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
It's like, it's ridiculous. And kids are going to learn that they can't talk back, that they can't be smart, that they have to ask permission to go, to the bathroom. Like they don't have any freedom anymore.
Do you have a hall pass, Julie?
Yeah. They don't have any freedom anymore.
No.
So anyway.
We've lost our freedom a long time ago, but it's incremental. It's incrementalism.
What do we want? Incrementalism.
When do we want it?
Eventually.
Right, exactly.
That's the progressive.
Well,
progressive is like they only want incrementalism eventually.
Right. and so this has just been, we've been just like, ground down.
Oh yeah.
Under the heels of we'll eventually get there. We'll get there. Yeah, we just can't do that right now. Because the voters, they voted a certain way. We just don't have the votes. We can't do that yet. Well, we'll get there eventually. Something else that's been ground down? This subject matter. I think it's time to end.
Yeah, it's time to put this horse out to pasture.
It's time for this boat to leave the station.
Bye, Bodie McBoatface.
Bodie McBoatface. Well, right. You have wasted another hour and almost 30 minutes with us. 90 minutes. Do you have anything else to say,
No.
Julie? Yeah. Okay. Roxy's getting impatient.
Yeah.
She's in the background meowing and she was rolling around under your chair a moment ago.
I heard and I saw.
Yeah. It's very cute.
She'll be all right.
She'll be good.
Thanks for listening, guys. I'll be back on Friday with
King cards.
with the Friday reading to continue this exciting story called The Difference Engine.
Yeah.
And then usually on Wednesdays, I like to put something out just for the patrons and paid subscribers.
So if you want to read that, you got to become a patron
or listen.
Yeah.
If you want to read or listen, because sometimes it's an audio.
Yeah, sometimes it's
I will
audio.
try.
Yeah.
It depends on what's going on this week.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
So thanks. This has been an off the cuff table talk discussion with us. We are Book of Hours. If you're listening for the first time, check out some of our work from the past.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Usually we're on camera, but today we're not.
Today we're unclean. No.
Okay. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. You can help us continue our work by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Book of Hours, or leave us a one-time donation at paypal.me/Book of Hours. Or you can use Cash App. Thank you.